Coming up, Lily Gladstone has become the first Indigenous person to win Best Actress in a Drama from the Golden Globes. Plus, we look towards Marvel's premiere of Echo, and Indian Country remembers activist and musician Cleo Benali. We have all of that ahead on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
The ICT Newscast is sponsored by the Indian Land Tenure Foundation, a nonprofit organization serving American Indian nations and people in the recovery and control of their rightful homelands. On the web at iltf.org.
Support for the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez comes from the Arizona PBS studios in Phoenix at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Arizona State University.
Amirawahopa, thank you for joining us. I am Aaliyah Chavez. A historic moment at the 2024 Golden Globe Awards as Lily Gladstone, who is Blackfeet and Nez Perce, became the first Native woman to win the Best Actress Award for her outstanding performance in Killers of the Flower Moon. Gladstone, who prefers she/they pronouns, dedicated her win to Native children dreaming of seeing themselves represented in their own stories. In the film, Gladstone plays Molly Burkhart, an Osage woman dealing with a series of murders after the discovery of oil on Osage lands. During her acceptance speech, Gladstone expressed gratitude for being able to speak Blackfeet and emphasized that her historic win belongs to the entire community. While Killers of the Flower Moon received several nominations, including Best Director for Martin Scorsese and Best Actor for Leonardo DiCaprio, it ultimately only won for Best Actress, with Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer dominating in several other categories. Well, a Native hero is taking the Marvel Universe by storm. Menominee and Mohegan Nation citizen Alaqua Cox is making history as the first major Indigenous character in the new Marvel TV series Echo. Cox plays Maya Lopez, a deaf amputee antihero who has photographic-related superpowers. In a statement, Cox said playing an Indigenous, deaf, and amputee character while representing those communities herself increases authentic representation on screen. Her role in Echo makes her the second deaf character to be featured in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The series highlights Choctaw culture and history throughout the 5-episode streaming event following Maya as she's forced to confront her family, legacy, and heritage. ICT will bring you the coverage of the premiere of Echo later this week. Well, 8 Indigenous films have been selected for the Sundance Film Festival this year. ICT's Paris Wise spoke with arts and entertainment columnist Sandra Hale-Schulman about the festival and what can come out of it.
This year's 40th Sundance Film Festival program includes fiction and nonfiction features, short films, series, performances, as well as conversations and other events. Last year, over 80,000 people attended, and those aren't the only numbers to consider.
They had tens of thousands of films submitted. They said there were close to 18,000 submissions from all over the world, 153 countries. It's a big job. They winnow these things down. Adam Piron is Indigenous director for the films. So these were the ones that he selected for this year. There's 4 features. Most of them are documentaries. And then there's one horror film. So that one's called The Mugai. It's a psychological horror film about an Aboriginal mother when she thinks a spirit is trying to steal her new baby. And the other one that I'm really excited about is called Frida, about the artist Frida Kahlo, and it looks very beautiful. They used animation, they used rare photos, and a lot of different things on Frida. There's another one called Sugarcane, which is a documentary. It's by a father-son duo. And Ed Archie Noisecat is the father, and Julian Brave is the son. And it's about the reckoning of, unfortunately, the Indian residential schools that the father had been part of earlier in his life.
There are 4 Indigenous short films nominated as well, including Bakal Nur, Lake Bakal, Bay of Herons, Ekba, and A Winding Path. Previous years have given a big platform to filmmakers and actors, some of which have continued to find great success.
Last year, Fancy Dance came out of Sundance, and a lot of these filmmakers, they get their training through these Sundance film labs and workshops that they sponsor for many years now. So it's really a hothouse of talent for pulling together and training a lot of these people, working with big professionals. So they've really been instrumental in pulling together a lot of these people and helping them get started and putting out, films and TV series that have gone on to become really successful. It's like the fruits of, I guess, their years of training and things have really built up to a point that it's getting big mainstream recognition as we've seen. I was there, I was a consultant on the film Rumble, and they put out this wonderful film, which really touched a lot of people. It's on Amazon now, I believe. And actually, Lily, one of the people featured in Rumble is Mildred Bailey. And Lily Gladstone has just been announced to play Mildred Bailey in a feature film that they're making. So that's her next project.
The Sundance Film Festival will take place January 18th to the 28th in Park City, Utah. Writer and director Billy Luther made an impact with his film, Frybread Face and Me. The movie tells a tale of 2 young Navajo cousins, one who lives on the res and one who comes to visit from the city. The coming-of-age drama reached top 10 on Netflix back in December. I spoke with Luther about the film and what it meant to him.
I think I'm still in it, it hasn't really hit, maybe like in a few months, but the great thing about that is the cast, the crew, everyone's kind of excited, especially the cast. We didn't know what was to come. We didn't know, we just knew that we were making something really, special. And I think that is kind of rewarding for them to see that their hard work paid off.
Speaking of the cast, tell us about the 2 kids who are the leads. How did you find them and what was it like working with them?
They have Mid-Thunder Casting, Stacey Rice and Angelique work together to find the kids, sent them the script and they fell in love, or so they said. And they wanted to really kind of get these kids that I kind of imagined and wrote them. Charlie Hogan, who plays Frybread Don, was our first, cast. I think that really was a testament to her audition, and this role was kind of like made for her, especially for her feature film debut. Keir Tallman, as Benny was, just this really kind of shy kid, and Angelique and Stacey found him, and he really hit kind of the notes that I, had written, but he went above and beyond and just really kind of took over this role, and it was just so natural for him.
Your grandmother only spoke Navajo, and that's how she's portrayed in the film. What influence did she have in your life?
Just like I think any of our elders, there's a moment that I think that as you get older and as you are an adult and a parent, you realize the impact that they had on you. As a kid, you think that they're going to be there forever, and you just don't necessarily know about a lot about life. So as a kid, I just kind of looked up to her, and I think that many of our native audiences are, when they watch this, they're reminded of their times that they had, those moments that they had, those summers, and just being with your grandmother or grandfather.
How would you say this film is relevant to Navajo youth and other Native youth today?
I went to this story and creating this film, from a perspective that I felt that was unique to me. Like I said before, and I just didn't see much representation of family and love and coming of age from the perspective of our youth, our native youth. So I'm pretty excited and always just moved by many people's response. And one of the things that I keep seeing in social media or messages or emails that I get is the audience, native audience, is felt like they're being seen for the first time. And that kind of really resonates in a way that I had no idea that was going to happen, or people were going to be feeling these or going back to memories that they had.
This story in the film is relevant to our communities, and many people in them. But how did you take the themes and this story and turn it into something that would touch so many people?
I don't want to say that we went into something that was, we were trying to do something. We were never trying to do anything. We were just, all of us from the art department to the actors were just going to a place that was so familiar to us. All of us went back home for the summers. All of us spent time with our grandmothers on the res. So we didn't have to try too hard. We've lived that. And I think that's what makes the story and the film really pop and stand out.
Billy Luther, writer and director of Frybread Face and Me, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Native American women have empowered others in their communities for centuries. That's the case for one Navajo leader who is being recognized for her efforts. ICT's Shirley Snavy has the story.
The Phoenix Indian Center honored a dozen leaders last November. One of them is Joy Hanley. She received the Phyllis J. Big Pond Lifetime Achievement Award. Joy was born in 1941 in Shiprock, New Mexico. In 1959, she won the title of Miss Navajo. Not a conventional beauty pageant. One of the criteria is sheep butchering. It was the beginning of a lifelong commitment to the betterment of Native Americans.
I've always been a little vocal, so I guess I was never afraid to speak my mind when I didn't think things were the way they should be.
I asked Joy if she had advice for young women to develop leadership skills.
There are a number of things I've tried to follow that I learned early on that kept me going. And one was to always think issues. I think it was Michelle Obama said, when they think low, you go high. And that's been one of the things I've always tried to do. If somebody wanted to pick a bone with me, I had to back off, because if it wasn't an issue that was worth pursuing, I didn't pursue it. And I would back off, pick your battles carefully, back off, but and also communicate. It's important to communicate with other colleagues, and we learned to do that at an early age in urban areas. And of course, we did that when we were at the tribal level too. So at the colleges, we always work with other colleges, and so it was just working together to be unified. It always helps to go with a unified front, whatever issue you're dealing with. And then when you're dealing with adversity, always remember what your point is. Go straight ahead, keep your heads high, and walk tall. My mother always told me, she said, you just remember who you are and walk tall and march straight ahead.
Joy Hanley's career is marked by her commitment to education from the local to the national level. She championed the Indian Child Welfare Act and the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. Her husband, Ben, is a retired attorney who served in the Arizona State Legislature for 26 years.
We still dance periodically. I'm 82 and we're both 82, and we still go dancing periodically, maybe once every couple of weeks. We dance in the afternoon. We can't dance at night, but there are bands that play at these places, and we go and we dance in the afternoon. And so my advice is to keep dancing as long as I can. So.
In Lincoln, Nebraska, Shirley Snavy, ICT News.
The Reno Sparks Indian Colony consists of over 1,000 tribal citizens from the 3 Great Basin tribes, including the Paiute, Shoshone, and Washoe. ICT's Shirley Snavy takes us to northern Nevada to learn more about the legacy of the tribe's leader, who is soon stepping back.
After 36 years of leadership, a groundbreaking chairman is retiring. Arlen Melendez started on the Reno Sparks Indian Colony Council and was elected chairman 32 years ago. He introduced innovative approaches to growth.
When I first started back in 1987, we were like many of the Nevada tribes. We didn't have gaming because Nevada's a gaming state. And, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act was just being passed. And it was too competitive here in Reno, where they have all kind of casinos and similar to Las Vegas. So competing with corporations nowadays is pretty difficult.
Instead of creating jobs and revenue through gaming, the tribe generates income through taxation of businesses located on trust land.
Businesses on a reservation, like Walmart, and we have auto dealerships in South Reno, and we took land in the trust. And so we used tax money to purchase land, bring businesses to the reservation, and in turn generate tax money. We worked on an agreement with the state of Nevada to be able to keep the tax.
Lithium mining on the tribe's ancestral lands is an issue.
It would be in the best interest if the mining was put on hold, but by the time you would get through to appeal, they would have already desecrated all of the sacred sites. So there's no sense trying to do that now. We were trying to orchestrate some injunctions in the early stages to stop it so that we could have proper consultation, but that never really happened.
The fight continues under new leadership.
The chairman now, who's going to be sworn in, Doug Gardepy, he was the vice chairman to me a couple times, so he has experience. So I feel good about that. And we have some councilmen that are experienced that are coming on board too. It should work out pretty well for them if they just kind of keep their vision, and try to avoid conflicts internally. And I think that's one of the things that other tribes have looked at us, is that we keep moving forward with economic development and don't try to get bogged down in internal conflicts. That's the thing that really will stop your tribe, if everybody's after one another or jealous or whatever it may be. And I think if you can avoid that and keep going forward, I think it works out really well.
Shirley Snavy, ICT News.
Growing up, I've always wanted to help people. I remember stories of my mom telling me, walking down the aisle at the grocery store and just asking people, how are you doing today? As a nurse, we're taught to lay hands, and that's so much healing. A lot of people don't get that loving touch. And as a nurse, going back to the reservation, I think, man, like, how much impact can you make just loving people right? I think for a long time, the Native American people have been fed this lie of you're dependent upon, say, the government. But I would love to create a culture where it's the Native American that says, I'm doing this so that I can make my community better. I'm doing this so that I could bring commerce into my community. I'm doing this so that I can have the resources to help others.
Prominent activist Cleo Benali has died. Benali, who is Dene, was a well-known advocate for Indigenous people and environmental causes. During his life, Benali's name became synonymous with his tireless efforts against the controversial snowmaking activities at the Arizona Snow Bowl ski resort in Flagstaff, a mountain that is considered sacred by at least 13 tribes. He was also a staunch protester against issues like police violence and racial profiling. He notably joined activists in 2014 outside an NFL stadium in Phoenix to denounce the offensive team name used by the Washington, D.C. franchise. Benali was also a passionate advocate for the cleanup of abandoned mines, which once extracted uranium ore from the Navajo Nation in support of U.S. nuclear activities during the Cold War. Beyond his advocacy, Cleo Benali was also a talented guitarist known for his contributions to the Native American punk rock band Blackfire, where he performed alongside his sister and brother. He was 48. In addition to his activism, Cleo Benali was also an avid filmmaker who used the medium to advocate for Indigenous justice within the entertainment industry. In August of last year, ICT's Mackenzie Allen Charmley talked with Benali about the release of Barbie and Oppenheimer after the films received backlash from Native audiences.
I've been a media justice advocate for over 20 years now. So media justice really is a powerful tool for us to understand critically how storytelling, how narratives impact, how they shape our identities, and the power, the underlying power relationships that they reinforce or that they deepen. And so to respond to that question first is to address the fact that we have ongoing challenges with Indigenous people in representation, particularly in pop cultural mass media. We can look at the history and look at why we're here today. And what really concerns me is that we've fought hard as Indigenous people against dehumanizing narratives that have degraded and facilitated ongoing colonial violence against our people. You cannot easily oppress or degrade or commit violence against people if you have not dehumanized them, if you have not portrayed them as being less than. And so these narrative dimensions of power are what concern me beyond Oppenheimer, beyond Barbie, but overall with the media that we are subject to, that we consume, as people say. And this is a critical, aspect of the environments that we are subject to, the archives that inform dominant cultures' understanding of our dominant society's understanding of who Indigenous people are, which also impacts how we view ourselves and how we treat ourselves. And most importantly, what ways that we are dehumanized, and this applies to any kind of negative portrayal, like mascotry of Indigenous people, or just the sort of like what appears to be casual co-optation or appropriation. The underlying aspect is it's tied to a context of violence against Indigenous people that we can just be taken from without consent. Our bodies, our knowledge, our spirit, and our land and waters. So as I mentioned, justice won't come at the box office. And, perhaps some cathartic feeling as an approximation of justice could, like if we had a wildly successful narrative and people denounced the portrayal of Indigenous people or the lack thereof in these films. Maybe we had a blockbuster Indigenous film that, reinforced positive, aspects and empowerment of Indigenous people. But maybe that would give us a reference point and make a lot of people money, but the underlying power relationships, if they haven't changed and the exploitation, domination, and control persists, that comprises the institutionalization and commodification of Indigenous identity, then we really can't call that justice. For me, it would amount to like a play at a prison acted out by prisoners. So we have to ask ourselves, what is it going to take for us to make a jailbreak from these colonial and capitalist constraints, especially when, and we talk about accountability, studio execs only care about their bottom line, their profits. So unless they're confronted and challenged, and we dig deeper and look at the root causes of the commodification and exploitation of Indigenous identity, if we look at the erasure of Indigenous existence, and we also stop playing into these industries and instead empower Indigenous narratives with culturally rooted media practices, I think, we can establish accountability on our terms. One, by checking and addressing these problematic practices, but two, by empowering our systems of media expression that are culturally informed, that empower our cultural ways of sharing knowledge, because we are ultimately storytellers. And to me, this means fighting colonial narratives, means resisting this cultural imperialism.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.